I'm going to read this little story again. I read it a few minutes ago, but was missing a page. I found the where it continues. This is a story about the era in the early 70s when I used to camp with my friends, the Lettuces. We would go, when I was 11 years old, was the first trip, to North Lake campgrounds in the Catskills. And we would go to the mountain house. And the first time we went there, I had a cold. So Priscilla Lettuce handed me a little bottle of NyQuil. Well, she poured it into the little cap. And after I had the NyQuil, she looked carefully at the bottle and said, "Oh my God." And now we shall read this. It's an excerpt in itself, but now I have, I don't have whatever preceded it, but I had the next page and a half that I was missing in the last video. The hand of history continued. There was one night when they went to the mountain house, and I recommend the mountain house to any traveler because it does a haunted house one better, it being a ghost in itself. I'll explain this eventually. And Fred had a heavy cold. Mrs. Lettuce seemed to be beside herself about giving Fred the NyQuil. "Alcohol 3% by volume," she said, holding the bottle up to her eyes. "Dear God, what's your mother going to think when I tell her I got you drunk?" What she'd given him was a little cupful, not a measured cup, but a little plastic NyQuil's capful of NyQuil. Fred said, "My mother would approve." He said this holding his index finger up. The declamatory stance lent poise to his wobbling. "She'd say, 'Damn the alcohol content, the boy's got a cold.'" The problem, of course, was that the whole family, a Mrs. Lettuceism, was about to venture toward the mountain house. This was a cliff where a monstrous turn-of-the-century hotel had been bulldozed. I would ask the reader to picture the Lettuces and James in silhouette against an absurdly starry sky, going uphill single file along a pebbly path. James almost fell into the ravine at the right twice, but one or two members of the Lettuce family caught him and pulled him back. Fred was the over-polite guest always, and he was always overwhelmed by the kindness of the strangers who took him in. It wasn't a Tennessee Williams play. It was an American ritual of sharing with your neighbor. The Lettuces showed him a generosity James could not repay, and none of them gave him a dirty look in all the years he camped with them. He was an eyewitness to their every emotion. They put him on a pedestal and acted out their lives before him. He should have hated this, but it was the most honest gesture anybody had ever made him. "We are not of you, you are not of us, we will live together." They seemed to view him as an unchanging figure. Inasmuch as they wanted a constant, James was that, from his compulsions to his professed cynicism. He was quite good at pretending people's motives were all self-serving. Their own example of altruism horrified him. Nobody he knew except the Lettuces showed this. Once up at the mountain house, they sat on the edge of the cliff and in a hushed way looked at the lights of the 5 states before them. Yes, you could see 5 states from there and the Hudson River. This was privilege. While the Lettuces commented in quiet voices about the whole towns, while the Lettuces commented in quiet voices about what towns could be seen, James wondered at this window on their lives he'd been put next to. He didn't see himself through it, but as with all windows, his reflection was there. He just didn't notice. "He's drunk," Mrs. Lettuce said. "I'm going to rot in hell. I got him drunk." "You just gave him NyQuil," said Lorraine, the eldest, who was 17. "Plenty of mothers give their little children NyQuil." "He's going to fall off," said Mrs. Lettuce. "He's not going to fall off," said Richie. "He's tipsy, but he's not dumb. Dumb has nothing to do with it. Fred, stop rocking back and forth." Fred laughed and stopped. "Dear God," whispered Mrs. Lettuce. Then she said, a lot louder, "All right, everybody, come back 3 feet." The children groaned and pulled back, all except Fred. "You, Fred, come back, young man." Fred pulled back until his attention was arrested by a carving in the rock he sat on. He could read it in the starlight, and he read it out loud. 21st Expedition, Corporal Beach and Co. He pronounced it as written. 1903. 1903, he exclaimed. "We have some of the oldest carvings here," said Mrs. Lettuce. Her interest in... Now, I know I have the rest of this. Okay, "We have some of the oldest carvings here," said Mrs. Lettuce. Her interest in James's safety suddenly diminished. The youngest, Kim, raised a protest, but not her voice. She was heard. "All right, young ones. Kid has to go and go bad. Back to the campground." Fred, with his notebook before him, considered the wonder he'd felt. He was not sentimental, but if anything had drawn him to things otherworldly, it was his time camping with the Lettuces. Somehow he had been allowed beautiful thoughts when he knew he should only have seen a woman with a brood of children. A piece of heaven had been offered him.